how to play Need for Speed Most Wanted of 2012. Proven method works flawlessly every time. Strange as it may seem, the game starts with the problems of the licensed version from the origin. Once upon a time I already played it and naturally abandoned it without reaching the end. And now, having returned to it back, I found that I have no way to start the game again. There's nothing at all. I repicked all the settings, but as we all know from the NFS of 2015, the developers generally don't like to make the function of starting a new game an easy task. But at least this button could be found there. Then fuck those in your mouth. I deleted the save from the save folder, in general take a shit and everything start in the same place. It's also impossible to disable cloud saving from them. At least I didn't find in launcher. Oh, by the way, did you think that the last thing I said to do was just to go to launcher, click delete and you're done? But no matter how, I didn't find the delete button in the EA launcher either. And therefore I got into the Revo uninstaller and only through it I was able to remove it. After all this pre-launch wanking, when we launched the game we immediately see the biggest problem with it, namely its name. If it hadn't been called exactly the same as one of the best racing of all time, then everyone would have bypassed it and would have forgotten it as soon as it came out. But the developers decided to stir up interest in it, call it Most Wanted, and moreover without any other subtitles, so that there was as much confusion as possible. Absolutely nothing was added to it that would refer to the very game, thereby added interest after launch turned into a warm fart for many. And what's the most offensive, if EA makes this Criterion game, that is quite possible that we could see some kind of new Burnout that would be much more interesting than this piece of diarrhea. But Burnout is sold worse than Need for Speed, and therefore we have what we have. And what's more annoying is that you can find a couple of cool songs in the game. What they do in this piece of shit is not clear, but at least the ears were happy a couple of times during the game. At least it's a plus. But for the most part, the soundtrack in the game is one that you forgot instantly after the game is over. It seems that there are good songs, but they are stereotyped and unscripted as possible. By the way, we are now seeing the only cutscene in the entire game. For many it's the only one, because it's unlikely that anyone went through this piece to the end, but in the end there is another small one. 2 story cutscenes for the whole game. Awesome, isn't it? Also the plot, it is very loudly said. You won't be able to find even a semblance of history in this game. If in the original Most Wanted Ryan Cooper was walked through Blacklist in order to get his car back, then here a faceless dummy goes through the Most Wanted list just to get through the Most Wanted list. There is no written goal, no conflict, no motivation, as well as no point in spending money of this piece.
Welcome to the city of Fairhaven, home to the most intense street racing on the planet.
Well, whoa, what a conceit we have here. But Tommy Wiseau also considers himself a great director, so let him. The boss cars in the game is the most forgettable boss cars of any existing boss car in any racing game in the universe. The developers just took some hype or just brand new models of some supercars, made them bosses, and you're done. And these bosses are very complex. When we start a battle with him, a video starts with the most likely made for the presentation of this car or some kind of car exhibition, but not for the game, and that's it. It's not that the face of this boss wasn't shown to us, but we don't even recognize his name or at least his gender. Our boss is just a machine and not the most memorable. Forgive me, Pro Street and Underground, for what I said about your bosses some bad things. Compared to this misunderstanding, you're the most elaborate of the most elaborate. By the way, I managed to defeat the first boss on this gibberish. At the time he was in Alfa Romeo 4C. That's such a cool balance in the game. Something, by the way, from the good Most Wanted still passed here. Namely, just like there, after defeating the boss, we pick up his car. But here, in order to pick it up, there one small condition. You need to smash it. Fucking smash the fucking car in order to drive it. What a genius came up with these mechanics in a game. How many times was his parents drop him on the floor as a child? Isn't my victory enough for me to take his car? And if it does not depend on winning on a race, then why even race with them? Took immediately broke his car and now it's yours. If I come to the car dealership to buy a car, will they tell me to do the same after payment, I wonder? And even if I cannot catch up with him and he runs away, in the future he will constantly loom before my nose and sometimes even crash right into me, as if he really wants me to take the car from him. And yet when you drive a boss car, you can find in it the absence of any technical improvements, because the best racers in the city drive stock cars from the showroom. Even nitro acceleration is not set. But in terms of how easy it is to defeat them, it's not surprising. I need a lot of cars to defeat the bosses. What for? Beat the boss in the first car, took the car from him, passed the next one in his car, and so on. All the cars that are on the street in which you can fucking sit down are not needed at all. By the way, yes, this is another ingenious mechanics of a gifted game designer who fell headfirst down the steps of 16-story building. Now we have no store, no money, all the cars are lying around the city, and you drive up to them and pick them up. Who and why played this car around the city and still didn't close them is not clear, but at about the first hour of the game I came across Marusia, and now a question. Why the hell do I need at least some kind of car after Marusia? About what gradual process is from a slow car to a faster one, what is the basis of any race, what creates a sense of development throughout the game, what makes you interested in playing to the end, the local game designer does not know. Fuck, even the Undercover does this more adequately. You understand, I began to praise the Undercover, that's how new Most Wanted is good. By the way, also Marusia is a Russian car, it did not stall at the first turn. Weird. I would say implausible. And what's more, before any change of the car, we are driving an Aston Martin, which is far from the weakest in the game. About the fact that they also managed to screw the standard control by making gas and a brake on A and Z and turns to the arrows, I'm already silent, at least you can fix it. But no matter how you set up the control, its physics will still continue to be somehow vicious, and there will always be a feeling that all actions occur with some kind of delay. What the fuck, here is live example of how quickly the machine responds to pressing a key. I'm afraid to imagine how fucked up it would be if I decided to play it on a Bluetooth gamepad. But no matter how bad this game is, it is impossible not to notice how pretty it looks. The old renderware engine was still capable of something and was able to produce a pretty nice picture, good lighting and beautiful collision effects, including a car damage model. Also, this damage do not affect the physical properties, it still looks very good. But last year the run on Frostbite was still a cut above, because it Frostbite it can make a beautiful picture without any problems. The fact that it is not suitable for racing is a completely different story, but the fact that Most Wanted has degraded even in this direction is undeniable. But also the damage the car is pretty good, the scenes with accident are some kind of nightmare. Firstly, thanks to bad control, accidents which occur quite often, especially at high speeds, which also helps with the most cretinous level design, in which you can confuse or not notice the turn and stick into the wall. And secondly, these burnout style crashes are quite long and unmissable, and unlike the burnout where there was simply a divine model of damage, here, as in some kind of San Andreas, individual part of the body are slightly ringed. And when the car with all its foolishness sticks straight into the wall and all that changes in it is a slightly bent hood and cracked glass, I don't really want to watch it from time to time, which at high speed is almost 100% likely to lead an accident. But even if you crash right next to the police cars, who the hell will arrest you? They will wait until you recover, and only then will they make some attempts to ram again, it's lucky. As for the game that tries to be fast and seamless in everything from mid-game race selection, on-the-road car repairs, on one-button car changes, these are unspeakable, dull and annoying scenes do not fit into its rhythm at all. And what's fit into such a rhythm of the game is the logic of the behavior of our opponents on the road. If he bites somewhere and crashes, or I just overtake him a lot, he will score on obstacles or accurate cornering, and as if on a rails will 20-foot boost of nitro oxide, he will quickly catch up with us. And the cheating of opponents does not end there. Raging policemen are also enraged by the fact that right in front of us they constantly throw strips of strikes that you don't have time to notice and run into it, which causes tires to burst. But this applies only to us. If the opponents drive to these spikes, he will drive further if nothing happened. But on the other hand, if he overtakes us very much for any reason, after a while he will definitely slow down and wait until I slightly greatly reduce the distance between us. Excellent difficulty balance. By the way, at the expense of complexity. If I hit the spikes and hit all 4 wheels, what do you think will happen? Also nothing will happen. The wheels will break, the car will become a little more unstable and slow down a little, an animation of sparks will appear, but it will not be difficult at all to drive further on disc alone at normal speed. Damn, in few times I did finish in such a state. The balance of difficulty in this game is generally some kind of interesting thing. Some races marked as difficult I passed the first time without any tension at all, and others marked as medium require several attempts for the first place. Or they have races classified regardless of the car, even on Russian Lada, even on Lamborghini, it is heavy for you. We fell for spirits for this scene, so go fuck yourself. Very often, no matter what car I get on, the race selection menu will display those that I have already completed on other cars, and the farther the more such races I will meet. Of course I didn't count, but I have strong feeling that the number of all available races can be counted on the fingers, and dividing of races to a specific car was done solely in order to pretend that there are actually more of these races than there really are. And of course to every race you need to go on your own, not counting those in which you participated at least once. And this was probably done in order to be able to find new cars around the city, but as I noticed earlier, the need to look for these cars disappeared after the first boss, so the ability to quick move would be very helpful. Who would have thought, but they fucked up even process of starting the race. What didn't you like about the E button to start? They supposedly want the race to start from the sleeping of the pricks, which is firstly stupid, and secondly, the race starts even if you press these buttons on the goes, from which there will be no sleeping, which means that such an innovation is completely meaningless. Perhaps unintentionally, but this cafe decided to call itself fuck after finding out what game it was in. Just like everything else, tuning also happens instantly after the race, with the press of just one button. And since these improvements are given only for completing races, and the number of races assigned to each car is only 5-6 things, the number of new parts per car of course will not be much either. And apart from Nitro, I didn't notice the rest of the improvements whether they affect at least something at all. And of course these improvements are only internal. From the customization of the appearance in the game, only the repainting on the hull remains, which is carried all along with the repair after visiting the gas station, because that's what the workers do. And some more detailed tuning in the form of the new body, spoilers, disc, or at least something cannot be found here. Speed points are earned so quickly that towards the end just a few races were enough for me to open the next one after the victory of the boss. And along with the DLC where 4 new bosses are available at any time, it is enough to defeat one of them and maybe more race and you're done, the new main boss is open. At the expense of DLC bosses, by the way. They're still empty, but one of them is BMW from the Most Wanted, in which you can ride after the victory. It's a cheap move to insert a well-known car so that you at least like something in the game, but it worked. I like riding it. I have never seen the cars of other bosses anywhere and I don't know where they came from, so I can't say anything about them. Same thing with DLC cars. Some of them came from old NFS, some from some films, and some more. Cars are like cars, look one and if you know the source, then admire them and you can safely forget about them and continue to ride on the boss's cars. Another point about the Most Wanted BMW. When I broke it after the victory and took it from the boss, I got behind the wheels and saw this. Fuck knows what it is, but after restarting the game everything became normal. But in a bad game even such minor flaws are noticed and therefore I will put a scene for this. All the same there is nothing worse. A little more crap or a little less, it will not change the essence. You could earn speed points by getting away from the cops. Fuck those cops break line in the game. At the first and second level of the search it's still normal. I broke away from the pursuit, waited until the search subsides and okay. But at the third and higher it's not so easy to get away from the chase, and objects that can be brought down on the pursuing policeman, and places where you can hide and wait, not in this game. And since these speed points are enough even without the police, this is nothing to spend them on, and they don't punish me for arrest, I just stop, wait while they hold me up, which doesn't always happen quickly because these morons, even when I'm standing, like to ram me and start losing scenes of braking, and after that I calmly start the race. Either from easy drive during the chase I start the race in which I have already participated and the presence of the chase will not prevent me from moving to its beginning. And that was the one main features of the original Most Wanted, the police chase. And even it, Criterion managed to cheat. After making absolutely every aspect of the game as bad as possible, the developers finally rushed give a fuck about the effort, tried all the exciting drugs that can be found on this planet, and after that made the cutscenes playing before the start of the race. How it is possible to reach such fucked up state in right mind, I can't even imagine. If some like this fun for Explode look like the work of pretentious, highly spiritual European director who think that his is doing some kind of mega cool game that is so great, and in its plot which takes place some kind of hard rendering drama that normal videos before the race are not enough, some look like a monkey opened the After Effects and decided to press all the buttons at once, and the rest are a good reason to visit studios the Criterion of narcologist and even drug control. I am sure that they will find a lot of interesting and forbidden things there. Unlike absolutely any racing arcade, well, almost any, I have not played everything, in this game there is no button to reset the car back to the road, and that this is similar situation occurs when I stop by. If I'll fall into some kind of fuck or even somewhere off the road, I'll have to either start over or drive back and drive back onto the road. And also the opponents are waiting for us. If we're gone far, they still continue to go, and such a gap may be too large for in order to catch up. Is there any point in talking about racing mods at all? Well, there are only a couple of them. The main thing is a circle or sprint, of which 99% of all. They are the most ordinary and unmarkable. There is a mode in which you need to keep the average speed at a certain level. Somewhere in depths of the list I dug out a drift, about which a little later, leaving the police for a certain time, breaking badges for a certain time, and that's it. Very poor, very little, and like everything else in this game, very dull. But drift, on top of everything else, is also the most crap-made drift among all of the games in which drift appeared. Worse than the management of the machine in the mod I have not seen anywhere else. It's so disgusting that even a cow on the ice with a hoof turned inside out and with a pumped up naked man on top of it managed to drift better than local thought. It's just disgusting, and thank God that there are very few such races. And if I am not mistaken, the whole drift from the DLC came, it was not in the game before them. What is the point of putting up barriers only on part of the road, leaving the huge piece empty so that it would be convenient for us to pass through it? If you change the car while on sight of the police, not only will they not stop chasing us, they will also see through the wall where I am. Fences made of cars, which in original Most Wanted were beautifully broken by a car, here in half of the cases lead to an accident. Yes, it's more realistic, but at the same time it's more funky. Every time you enter the game you are forced to look at this horizon of the camera with statistics, and then at the characteristics of the car, and only then they will give you the opportunity to choose a race. And after the end of the race you immediately look at the statistic of the race, which cannot be missed, then the characteristic of the car, and only then choose the race. Very important information and definitely worth my time. We are not witnessing a unique case of how an in-game operator, due to the shitty game in which he is, was so desperate that he decided to jump off a skyscraper. To be honest, if I were inside this game, I would do exactly the same thing. Also, this video has no sound, because if there's no sound at all, then you don't have to worry about writing any sound effects either. Well, here the operator got stupidly lost and poked around in different corners several times in the hope of finally finding where the fucking race was taking place. His suspension is fucked. The location of some of the cars in the game is very interesting. Who, why the fuck and the whom did they put them on the roof? How convenient is this parking spot, and what are the rates charged for it? Bosses from time to time, who for a minute are the best riders of the city, forget about what a steering wheel is. Hooray, class, I'm so crazy at times that my fingers is already reaching the delete button right now. It's a pity I don't have a disc with this game, so I would have thrown it the fuck out of feminist running by. The game arrogantly assumed that after overcoming the last boss, someone in the right mind will still want to play it. I'm not sure at all that at least someone other than me mastered it to the end. Also, it takes 6 hours to complete, that was enough for me, I don't want anymore. Well, thank God this misunderstanding ended, which took on the name of the Most Wanted, so at least someone stupidly bought it. Disgusting in most aspect and average in the rest, no plot, no tuning, no garage, no protagonist, no normal bosses, nothing at all. An empty non-scripted it in places Jack reading crap that was not worth any money in 2012, still not worth any money at all 10 years later. Even the undercover was much more pleasant and interesting to play, it was better to replay it. And also it's better not to be, normal races are enough, why touch this moodly shit. Way better to like this video, repost it, write in the comments that I am a fool and this is the best NFS of all time, and suck pussy.